StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, we are going into a series. Let me see how many episodes we got of this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, this is going deep. 7, 8. 8-part series. 25 false beliefs that are keeping you broke. That's what we're going to cover over the next 8 episodes of this show. Now, before we get into this, let me remind everybody that I send out a text message every single day, free of charge. This text is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point every single day to start your day. I call it the daily motivation. The only thing you got to do to get this text is to text me right now, my number, which is 305-384-6894. And every day when the daily motivation text goes out, you and every other member of my texting community shall be receiving this message that does exactly what I just told you is going to do. So text me at that number. It is listed down below in the show notes. Now, getting into this, second thing, Work on Your Game University. Let me not forget about that. That is where I do all of my coaching. That's where all my courses are. That's where all of my programs are. When you are ready, and I know that right now you're ready. So since you're ready, I should say it that way, to take that next step and really take your game where it's supposed to go, your personal game and your professional game, all you got to do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. We'll tell you exactly what your next steps are and how to take them. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is where you take the next step. Any of you who's ever asked about being coached by me, you want to work with me directly, you like to have direct access to me, you want to get the 2 physical mailings I send out every month, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, and it is laid out and explained there exactly what your next step is, and it's actually extremely simple. All right, you can't mess it up. All that said, let's get into this subject. 25 false beliefs that are keeping you broke. Now, I've done a good number of these series here on this show where I take a topic and I break it up into several episodes. Most recently, I did a 5-part series on the keys to confidence. I talked about more money, more problems, part 1 and 2. I answered questions from my text community. I did that in a 6-part series. I talked about keys to productivity in a 4-part series, money increasing myths, parts 1 through 3, entrepreneur disciplines. That was a 3-part series. I talked about why I won't write another book for a long time. I talked about my media production system. I talked about why you need to hire help. I talked to you about businesses that you can start right now. I'm just looking at series that I've done that was multiple episodes, how to lose friends and alienate people, and how to be more resilient, just as a sampling of some of the series that I've done recently here on this feed, on this show. And I must say that this one right here is going to be the longest series in the history of the Work on Your Game Masterclass as of now, simply because of how many different false beliefs I have come across, I have heard, I have seen from people that are keeping those people in a space that they don't even want to be in when it comes to the money that you want to make. So as the title says, and it's very self-explanatory, these are the false beliefs about money, finances, and everything in between that are in your way. Understand that these false beliefs that I'm going to break down are not skill-based. They are not resource-based. These are all in your head. This is mental trash that we need to take out, okay? And once we clear out the mental trash, you open the lane for yourself to actually move forward and do what you want to do and possibly earn the money that you want to earn and get to the space that you want to be in financially. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, that sounds like a positive proposition, then turn the volume up, take out something to take notes with, and let's get into it. Point number 1. Topic, once again, is 25 false beliefs that are keeping you broke. Number 1, money is the root of all evil. There's a false belief that many people who have been unable to bring in the money that you want, you have this in your head, and this is one of the reasons why you can't bring in money. Actual quote is, the love of money is the root of all evil. That's the accurate saying that people are misquoting the Bible. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. If you put some money on the table, and if you have any money, Put some money on the table, just a dollar bill. If you have cash, put your credit card or your bank card that represents money. Put that there on the table and leave the room for 5 minutes. Come back. All right, still sitting there and didn't do anything. All right, so money itself doesn't do anything. Money is completely impartial. It is an inanimate object, doesn't do anything. It's the person who has it and how you use it that determines whether it ends up doing something good or doing something bad. Okay. And the bigger point here is not about the Bible, of course. Anybody who lives with the belief that money is the root of all evil, you are subconsciously pushing away any money that could possibly find its way to you. That's really the point here. And we all need money to live. Even if you're just using it for food, clothing, and shelter, you need that to live. If you believe money to be the root of all evil, and assuming that you believe evil is a bad thing and you don't want it around you, then you have a very strong internal conflict, and that's exactly what's causing all your issues. That's a conflict. You can't say money is the root of all evil, but at the same time, you're trying to make money. All right, which one is it? Unless you're happy with evil. I mean, unless you happen to be, a person who is satanic and you're okay with evil being a thing. I would assume most people reasonably look at evil as a negative thing. So if you think money is a negative thing, is the root of negative things, but then you're trying to make money and then you're unable to make money, well, that should make sense to you, shouldn't it? It makes sense to me. That's an internal conflict. We got to fix that. Money is merely a tool, ladies and gentlemen. That's all money is. Money is just a tool. Same way a hammer is a tool, or a screwdriver, or a power drill. I bought a power drill about a year or so ago because I had bought something off of probably Amazon or something. It had to be assembled. And when you buy those little you buy something from one of those places and it comes in a box, but it's not assembled. You got to assemble it, and they give you that little tiny little tool that looks like shaped like the letter L, and is barely bigger than your finger. And you're supposed to use that to screw in all the little screws. Like, that shit takes forever if you use one of those. And then the instructions say don't use power tools. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm using the power tool. So anytime I got to put something together, I use my power drill, which cost me about $35 on Amazon. One of the best investments I've made in the last few years. So any of you who's ever found yourself slaving over putting together furniture or something like that, office furniture, desks, couches, chairs, and shit like that in your home, and because you're using that little tiny tool and you got to screw everything in by hand, stop using that. Go buy yourself a power drill for $30 on Amazon. Keep it, because next thing you need to assemble, you're gonna need it again. Keep it as an investment, and that will help. You put things together a whole lot faster. Whole point is, power drill is just a tool. Same way money is just a tool. It's a very powerful tool, but a tool nonetheless. Same way, again, hammer and nails. A car is a tool. A smartphone is a tool. Used the right way, you can do great things with them. Now, using the wrong way, you do destructive things. Simple as that. The tool is only as evil or as great as the individual in whose hands it is in, and who decides and how they decide to use the tool. Okay, so a tool can do great things for you. It can destroy you. There's nothing evil about the tool itself, because the tool only works in the way in which the human who has it decides to deploy the tool. Money does not do anything positive or negative. It depends on who has it and how they decide to use it. I could use money to give to the church. I can use money to buy a hooker. I could use money to buy some organic groceries from the store. I could use money to buy some chips and ice cream from the same store. All right, it's my decision what I do with the tool. But the tool doesn't do anything. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, we are in part 1 of what I say was going to be 7 or 8 parts. 25 ideas, 25 false beliefs about money that are keeping you broke. Number 2, false belief. Rich people are greedy, and greed is a bad thing. While greed is one of the 7 deadly sins, there is no proof that a person who has a whole lot of money is necessarily greedy. All right, you don't have to be greedy to have a whole lot of money. Now, if you have this belief, this false belief, this is one of the reasons why you can't get more money. This is why you are stuck getting the bare minimum of money, because you have this belief that getting more than a certain amount somehow makes you bad or negative, or that you're doing something wrong. And a lot of these false beliefs, folks, have been taught to you. They've been fed to you by other adults around you who are equally broke. And now you are basically living out their lives. All right, you got to undo this garbage. This is a false assumption that many people make, usually when you have some level of belief in what we talked about in point number 1, that having more or wanting money or in some way, or the accumulation of money somehow makes you a bad person and you're doing something wrong. All right. Rich people are often the people, in my experience, often the ones who are most willing and able to give to those who are less fortunate, because you ain't got nothing, it's hard to give. All right, because people who have more, that some people would label as greedy, they have something to give. So they're willing to give, and they give. The biggest givers to charity are those who have excess to share. Right? The biggest charitable donors in the United States of America are people who have excess, or what many of you will call excess. Excess is relative, but excess amounts of income, and they want to shelter that income from being taxed. So they give it as a charitable donation because it does not get taxed the same way that just regular income that you made from profit that you made from doing business doesn't get taxed in the same way. So a lot of charitable donations are given in a strategic way because people are trying to avoid taxes, because the taxes is just money that the government just takes from you. And the government is very inefficient with what they do with money. So even if the government takes $100 in tax from you, it's not like it's $100 going to infrastructure and building the roads and building up hospitals. And a lot of people falsely believe that. That's not true. The government is very inefficient. So what they do is they take their cut off the top, which is about 70% of it. Then the other $30 that's left, that goes to the infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a whole different conversation for a different day. But the point is, a lot of charitable donations, most of the money that gets given to charity is given by people who are looking to not give that money to the government, who uses it inefficiently. And at least the charity might use it a little bit better. They ain't always that great either. But again, different conversation for a different day. The whole point is, people who have more are able to give more. I talked about this in the episode where I talked about where another false belief that a lot of people say that it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. Any of you ever heard that saying? Have any of you ever used that saying? I talked about this in episode number, let me see if I can find it. I've talked about important so many times. Episode number 202 is important to be important. Important is defined as having a profound impact on success. The more important you are, the more nice you afford yourself to be. Usually the nicest people I met are the people who are most important. People who have the most profound effect on success are usually the friendliest, nicest people out there in aggregate. Why? Because they have such a profound effect on success. They ain't got a reason to be mad. All right, just think about it. And the biggest givers to charity, again, as I said, those who have excess, and you can't give what you don't have. The definition of greed is having or showing an intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth or power. Now, any term that is commonly used as a way of demeaning another person, like greed, whose definition is based on internal thoughts, is a slippery term to use simply because no human being has the ability to read minds. So if you call another person greedy, you're saying that they have an intense and selfish desire for something like wealth or power. But how do you know what someone's desires are? You don't know if someone desires for wealth or power unless they tell you. If you are accusing them of it and you have no actual proof, and the only proof you can have is them actually admitting it, anything other than that, you cannot prove, quote unquote, that somebody is something that is based on an internal way of thinking. Everybody understand? Greed is based on a way of thinking. Same way that racism is based on a way of thinking by definition. So you can't accuse someone, and nor can you prove that someone is a thing unless they openly admit, hey, I am this. Unless they openly admit it, you can't prove it. There's no way to prove it. So when you're accusing someone of this, what you're really doing is saying more about yourself than you're saying about them. So it's very difficult to prove that a person is greedy. And just because they have something doesn't mean that person A's reason for getting it is the same as person B's reason. So when a person who has a $10 million net worth goes and tries to make more money, they're greedy. But you, having a $1,000 net worth, you go try to make more money. You're not greedy? Or why are they greedy and you're not? Oh, because their amount is enough. They shouldn't want any more. Based on whose judgment? Who are you to tell somebody else what they need in their life? They don't have your situation. They don't have your lifestyle. Their expenses and your expenses ain't the same. So who are you to say that somebody's greedy just because they're going after more because they already got more than you? That makes them wrong, and it makes you right. It makes you righteous. Why? You can't answer that question, which is why, again, there's a very slippery slope when you start accusing people of things that are based on internal mindsets, because no human being I've never met a single human being who has the ability to read minds. And I know a lot of people. So logically, the only way you can actually know if a person is greedy, the only way you can know is if you're talking about yourself. You can never know if another person is greedy, again, barring them actually coming out and saying, hey, I'm greedy. All right, other than that, that's the only way you can know. And even if they did, so what? What if they are? Who are you to judge? I mean, since we're talking about the Bible, he without sin shall cast the first stone. Now, who's that? So What are your reasons for accumulating wealth? Only you know. And does it make you greedy for wanting to get more? Or you got more than everybody in your neighborhood. Does that make you bad to want to go get more than that, more that you already got? Or is that okay? It's okay when you do it, but it's not okay if somebody else does it. See how it becomes a slippery slope? Let's move on to point number 3. And it's also why it's a false belief. Number 3, we're talking 25 false beliefs that you have, not all in one episode, 25 false beliefs you have that are keeping you broke. Number 3, I don't deserve to be wealthy. This is the mindset that you have that is keeping you broke. That is not who you are to be a person who has a lot of money, a person who has a lot of assets, a person who has a lot of what other people want, because that's actually what wealth is. This is a self-image challenge that usually starts somewhere in childhood and was taught to you somewhere in your upbringing by the adults around you. Someone around you taught you that for whatever reason, you are not supposed to be a person who has a lot of money, a person who has a lot of assets, a person who has a lot of things that people want. Often this is because you were taught by people who have very poor mindsets around money, and you adopted their poor money mindsets, and now you got a poor money mindset. It only makes sense. I told you this in episode 2214, how your poor money mindset is keeping you broke. Many of you have poor money mindsets simply because you are modeling the poor money mindsets of the broke people around you that you grew up with. All right, they taught you how to be broke, and now you were a good student because you were doing exactly what they did. Now, any of you who grew up around people who had poor money mindsets, or people who were literally poor, or people who were mentally broke, and you broke that cycle and you did something different, all right, you did what I would suggest that you do, that you can look at the people who raised you, the people you were around growing up, and take the stuff from them that is useful for you and throw away everything else. That's completely okay. All right, your parents, your teachers, your coaches, your religious leaders growing up are not completely infallible people. All right, they were not perfect. They had some things, they had some shit and some garbage in their minds, the same way that you and I have shit and garbage in our minds. Same way that our kids are going to take the stuff from us that is useful, hopefully more than the percentage of what we take from our parents, because we have access to more information. Therefore, we should be doing better. And they're going to throw away what's not useful, and they're going to become their person. And ideally, each generation is a little bit better and plays the game at a little bit higher level. But understand that if you are around broke people and poor people growing up, and now you have a mindset of being broke and poor, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? If you are a great student of them, again, being a great student does not mean you accept everything the teacher says. It means you accept the good stuff that the teacher said that you can validate and make sense, because you don't accept anyone's information but your own. And anything the teacher shared that did not make sense, you challenge it, you question it, and you get better information, better insights, and you replace that with something better if and when you find it. And in the world that we live in today, you have no excuse to not find it, because it's all out there. So this is a self-image challenge. If you think you don't deserve to be, or is not who you are to be a person who has money, whatever that means to you, however you define that. And again, it was taught to you by the adults around you. So maybe it was the environment you came from, the neighborhood you live in. Nobody from there ever does anything or makes anything of themselves or has anything. The associations of the people you grew up around, the ideas that were drilled in your head, or that someone who's like you, may that be your gender, your socioeconomic background, your race, your lineage. Nobody from where you're from, whatever that happens to be, ever ascends to a certain level financially. Nobody from your family ever made $100,000 in a year. Nobody from your culture ever makes $1 million. Nobody from your gender and socioeconomic background ever is in a position where you're not worried about money. All right. If you have those drilled into your brain and you accepted them as true, then this is one of the main things that's keeping you broke. This is your self-image, and we got to fix this. While you have no control over who the people were that you grew up around, you have no control over what they say, you have no control over what they thought, or even what they think today. You do have control over what you accept and allow into your subconscious mind. You do control that 100%. So if you have allowed these type of thoughts into your mind, this is the exact reason why you've been unable to create the financial situation that you consciously want, because your subconscious mind is fighting against your conscious mind. And anytime the subconscious and the conscious fight, the subconscious always wins, because the subconscious controls 85% of our thinking. The conscious mind only has a mere 15% stake. It ain't winning. It will never win. Your subconscious mind controls most of what you are doing. Your conscious mind can only suggest to the subconscious mind, but the subconscious mind makes the final decision. So if you want to really change your self-image, you need to work on your subconscious, not your conscious. So your conscious is just you thinking something, a fleeting thought that you have in your head, something that you read in a book. Subconscious only changes through repetition and emotionalization. This is why a couple episodes back, I was telling you there's a difference between reading material, consuming material, and studying material. When you study material and you go over it over and over and over again, then it starts to make an imprint on your subconscious mind. You want to change your subconscious, you must study material, not consume material. So if you think you're just going to listen to a podcast every day and that's going to change your overall mind and it's going to change who you are as a person fundamentally, bullshit. No, it's not. This podcast has been out for a long time. All right, this podcast has been out for 7 going on 8 years every single day. Your fundamental changes happen when you study material, not when you simply consume it. And I put out a lot of material that can be consumed by a whole lot of people. You have to change your self-image to change your overall results in life, not just what you're watching on YouTube and the videos you're clicking through and scrolling through on TikTok. Okay, your subconscious mind will always fight against anything your conscious shares if it is not congruent with what the subconscious already accepts. All right, so check your subconscious. And you want to know what your subconscious actually believes, look at your life. It'll tell you. Let's recap. This is part 1, 25 false beliefs that are keeping you broke. And this is going to be the longest series in the history of the show here that I'm breaking these down. Number 1, money is the root of all evil. No, the actual quote is the love of money is the root of all evil. But the bigger point is you believe that money is the root of evil, but at the same time you're trying to make money and you believe evil is negative, then you have an internal conflict. And this is the exact reason why you can't make any money. Number 2, rich people are greedy and greed is a bad thing. First of all, greed is an internal way of thinking and processing. So you cannot prove that another person is greedy unless they actually come out and say that they are greedy. And just because someone has more than you does not mean they are wrong to want to get more than that more. And just because you are trying to get something, just because other people have more than you, well, look, there are people out there who got less than you. There are people in the world who live on $1 a day. You live on more than $1 a day? Okay, so are you greedy for wanting to make money? Okay, so then who the hell are you to accuse anybody else of being greedy? All right, because in somebody else's eyes, relatively speaking, you are just as greedy as they are. So don't get into that game. Number 3, you believe that you don't deserve to be wealthy. It's not who you are. It doesn't happen to anybody from where you're from, your community, your family, your neighborhood, whatever it happens to be. This is a self-image challenge that started probably in your childhood because you had broke and poor-minded people around you. They taught you how to be broke and poor, and you are living it out. Good news is you can change this by changing how you see yourself subconsciously. The best way to do that is you got to go to work and study the subconscious and actually go to work on the subconscious mind. I'll recommend you a book on this. It's called The New Psycho-Cybernetics. It's written by a guy named Maxwell Maltz and Dan Kennedy. And you can read the old Psycho-Cybernetics, the original book, also written by Maxwell Maltz. And just go look those books up. They spell them how they sound. All that said, tomorrow we'll be getting into part 2 of this series. Text me. Let me know the best point you got from today's class. My number is 305-384-6894. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can get coached by me, the Business Builder Framework. We go into these money mindsets and go into making sure you have the right mindset around money. And Bulletproof Mindset is all about breaking those false beliefs, taking out the mental garbage so we can actually plant some flowers in that garden of your mind. Again, that's Bulletproof Mindset 2.0. Both of those available as a member of Work on Your Game University. Work on your game. Dre, all